why is Gluu and Microsoft in this call together? I've been doing a lot of webinars the last couple of years with the intention of trying to find businesses like Gluu, applications like the Gluu application that can make you as partners more effective and can change the way you implement with customers and the way you service customers, so that it is more aligned with this new cloud world we're in, where the applications are continuously being updated. So that's the reason why we're here today, and I hope you will find some inspiration today to maybe change the way you're doing it a little bit, but it could also be get inspiration to do it in a completely new way. Should we take this slide?
Yes, let's get started.
Yes, just take the next one. So we have an agenda that looks like, let's see, like this. I'm going to start talking a little bit about the concept we have here at Microsoft called Success by Design, which is a model that has been created on the base of both customer experiences with Dynamics 365 projects, but also from our fast track team, the experiences they've had with customer implementations. And it's kind of like a cookbook as to how you approach your customers, not only in the implementation phase, but also afterwards. After that, Søren will tell you how you can actually do this, also with a base in the Success by Design document, and also how you, as a Dynamics 365, have a chance to differentiate yourself. And to differentiate yourself is not only to get new customers, it's also to a large degree keeping the customers you already have in this new world. Next. Let me introduce myself if you don't know me already. I'm Peter. I'm a partner solution architect with Microsoft in Denmark. And the reason why I'm talking about BC is I have more than 20 years experience with BC, both from a partner perspective, also working with larger customers, and have 8+ years, almost 9 years at Microsoft, both in Europe, in Western Europe, supporting the 14 countries in Western Europe, and in Denmark, with the main focus on BC and advising partners on product features and so on. So that's the reason why I'm here today from Microsoft. Søren, will you do your introduction?
Yes, first of all, I'm very happy to be here with you today, Peter, and introduce our offering to the Microsoft Dynamics 365 partners. Shortly about me, I have been working a long time with digitalizing business processes via ERP systems. First as a management consultant, then as a head of digitalization in a large multinational, and then as CEO in a digital agency. And then about 12 years ago, we started Gluu, where we started out with a lot of consultancy. And Gluu is a business process management platform. We currently have customers all over the world, and we are also transactable via the Azure Marketplace. So regardless of where you're sitting, you can still use Gluu without necessarily having to sign a contract with us. And we can set up private offers and so on. So I'm talking now about how you potentially could offer Gluu to your clients. And one more thing before I jump into our next step is that I do have an interesting proposition, something for you to take away at the end of the presentation, a very good offer. So I hope you will stay in here for that. But let's go to the next step. First, now we talked a little bit about who we are, but we would love to hear who you are so we can target this presentation to you. So we hope you will go into this tool called Menti. I'm just going to switch to Menti. And then hopefully start voting on who you are. What is your role? We would love to hear if you're primarily in technology and sales or in implementation. So please scan the QR code. There's also on the LinkedIn page, there's a link directly to this voting. You can also go to menti.com and type in the code that you see above. So just give you a few minutes just so we can understand who we are addressing here today. Yeah, this is both relevant for people that are primarily focused on implementation, because it is very much about lowering the risk, and also improving the scoping and so on in the project, but also, I guess, sales, because you can align with your customers more closely. See if we have others. Just give people a few minutes.
Something happened.
Yeah, we might have some people from an admin or marketing or some maybe CEOs or others joining us. This is also a little bit of a warm-up exercise, because we want to ask your opinion later on. And I should mention, all of these responses are all anonymous. It's just used for our purpose here, and also to spice up the presentation. And later on, we will ask you about your challenges, so that you will also have a chance to see the challenges of your peers, which may, of course, be quite interesting to see if participants from different countries are experiencing the same challenges.
Yeah, because we did this in Danish first, about a month ago.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting to see if it's more or less the same problems we see here, or experiences and challenges we see here.
Yeah. Well, I think we can conclude that we have a diverse bunch of people here, so we'll make sure that we try to there's something for everyone. I must say that the technology part will not be covered that extensively. That's more for a follow-up session. But I hope you will find this interesting anyway.
Talk a little bit about the situation. Why is it relevant? I've had a lot of conversations with partners during the past 2-3 years, discussing what is it that they think makes them successful. And the partners that I can see are successful in the online market is partners who have a structured approach to the customers. The sales resource already knows how to approach the customer. They very early on makes the journey that the customer is going on. So how are we gonna handle your project, more or less, which processes are involved, and then are really good at communicating that with the customers. Also, partners that use models, use standard processes clearly mapped into their models, have a lot easier sales process. The pre-sales and the sales process are a lot better, and the workshop part that you normally see in the traditional projects are quicker to go through, and you can actually more or less you will know a lot about the customer processes before you even meet the customer. They can also, in a more proactive way, service the customer after the implementation part, and we'll get back to that, because that is getting more and more important. Just as important as it is to successfully implement the customer, is just as important to be able to keep the customer. And you're only going to keep the customer if they feel that you add value to them. Otherwise, it's pretty easy for customers to switch to another partner. You need to be relevant for the customer. The customer needs to be sure that you know the business, and you're advising them along the way when we release new updates. Next slide. I go to a lot of customer events also, and the customers more or less say the same, just from their perspective. Some of the things that I hear from customers, for example, if I've done a demo of new features, and they might all even be 2 or 3 versions old features, this customer could also even be on the online version. But I get a lot of customers saying, the thing you just showed us Do I also have that in my Business Central? So they have the functionality, they have the features, but nobody has ever told them how to use it and that it's even there. Also here customers that approach me and say, we're not, it's not that we're dissatisfied with our partners' competencies, but we are in the dark when it comes to new versions of BC. So the partner is reactive only, approaching the customer when the customer actually has a question or a problem. Also, new customers will often come and ask me, do you know a partner that knows about the latest updates from Microsoft, and do you know a partner who's good at keeping their customers up to date? And that goes for both customers that are new customers, not on BC yet, but also for customers that are in some kind of a upgrade process or upgrade considerations. They all look for partners that can advise them along the way, that are proactive in their approach to the customers. Next slide. If you go to our Success by Design document, it actually takes a little bit of this into account, because it says, okay, what you need to do is implement and create value or maintain value for the customers. And as I told you before, this is created based on experience with customers who have deployed in the cloud, and its experiences both from customers, partners, and our own team that has been helping the customers. It's based on customers' processes and value, and not the system. And that's the important part that is probably also our main statement here, is that focus on processes, not the system that you need to support the processes. The use of the system is also a very important thing. So the user, the user at the customer, how they solve their problems, how they do their processes in the system is in focus, not the system the other way around. Next one.
Yeah.
So this is a statement that comes from the document. It's like to focus on business value should adopt a business process-oriented approach. And this approach that we have in this Success by Design is that the implementation focuses on supporting the business processes rather than taking a technology-specific feature and focusing on that. And I know from my career that we have a tendency to get all psyched up about technology, psyched up about a feature that we think is cool, but we sometimes forget to see it from the customer side. They might not be as technology focused. The first they'll say is, what can I use this for? Will this improve my business? Will this make me more effective? Will my employees be more happy if I do this? So really important, looking at the processes and then map it to the system afterwards. Next one. And finally, this is you all know this. This is a standard way of implementing, no matter if it's an ERP system or any system, IT system. You start by initiating. You get ready to get started, more or less. That's where you have your workshops, your pre-sales activities, and so on. Then you design, and then you build, and finally you deploy. That's been the traditional way of doing it. Then you might have had some support sitting in the background, reactively helping customers that have problems. In this new world, that you should have a lot of emphasis on the one that we in our model call operate, and that's the time from the customer go live and until the end of their use of the product, more or less. You need to be able to support the customer in the whole life cycle, not only when you've implemented it, they paid the bill, and then you may deliver a few hours here and there. Now you need to continuously invest in the customer, and especially be vigilant around when we have new updates and the customer receives new updates, that they really get the value for these updates. Because I know a lot of us is selling the cloud based on the evergreen story that the customer will always be up to date, no more update projects in the future. But that doesn't make sense if we don't create, or we don't show the customer what value there is in the new versions for them. So that was a little bit of introduction, and then I'll give the word to Søren.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So I read this whole 740-page document just to understand what the best practice implementation model is, and I will show a little bit about how Gluu can enable that to happen. But it does sound like common sense best practice really for any type of fairly large IT project, I would say. First, I would love to give a little bit of introduction to why we are even here in this space as Gluu. As I've already said, we are a business process management platform, and we're selling about 70% of our solutions directly to end customers, to companies that want to succeed with business processes. And then we sell about 30% through partners. And today, until now, it's been primarily management consultancies. So now the reason why we want to shift more into the Dynamics 365 space is that we see that that there is a need for the customer to take responsibility for their own business processes and define clear ownership for each of the processes that this system need to enable and to support. And if the customer doesn't do this, then there's a very high risk of ERP implementation project failure. So this is where we really have something important that we can help you and your customers to do, I think. It was all sort of amplified by the fact that we had a few projects with partners on Dynamics 365 Business Central implementations, where we could see this working very well. So that's why we are now we are signing partnerships in Denmark, but also now with this and other initiatives going internationally, primarily in EMEA. So there is a big chance for a win-win here. I think it's not about us selling something to you. It's about giving you a tool so that you can service your customers better, really. But let me be more clear on that. First of all, I would love to show you a little bit about what kind of value proposition we have to you and what challenges we can help you resolve. Top line, it's very much about increasing earnings. As you know, when you run a business selling hours, margins can be rather thin, especially when the customer wants things to be redone and you have to do extra work and so on. So earnings and risk are very important in a service business, obviously. If you can get into selling ongoing services, for instance, supporting the adoption of new features from Microsoft, that may be a much higher margin business. And this is what we are hoping to enable. So to summarize a little bit, I think we can offer you a faster value creation because you can reuse your own business processes, your own libraries of processes. What you've done for one client, you can reuse with the next. And of course, this makes it a lot simpler to communicate with clients. And as you're reusing best practices, suddenly you don't have a need for the same level of expertise on every project. You don't need to bring in those hardcore specialists every time, because it will be more easy for junior people to work on some of the best practices that you've already created with other clients. The third point is the challenge of alignment of expectations. We hear that a lot from the partners we speak with, that often the customer has a bit of an unrealistic expectation of what the Business Central or the Dynamics 365 platform is going to bring. And in reality, they end up getting disappointed when they see the end result. And maybe they are actually themselves playing a big part in this, but they're not necessarily, it's all the vendor's fault, so to speak. So this brings us a little bit to the fourth point, that obviously if you have a successful project and you also have a clear separation of the customer's business processes and the systems, then you have a way, a tool, a platform to decide what impact there is from Microsoft releases on an ongoing basis. And this provides the basis for selling ongoing services to your clients, so that the project may be taking up a much smaller part, whereas the service sale and the ongoing support will be much bigger afterwards. And of course, that's very much in line with the new operating model for Microsoft of selling software as a service, where you can't really touch the code base. I don't know, Peter, you have anything to add here, or if we?
No, I think it aligns very well with what I just said, right? And
yeah.
You mentioned this, that you can probably use more junior resources, which also means that it's easier for you to take in, for example, an industry expert, somebody who really knows the industry, and upskill them and actually have them act as consultants for your customers, because you have this more aligned process and more visible process. So you don't need to have a consultant that's been sitting with the customer implementing for years in order to know what processes do this business have.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, these are some of the challenges that we address, but we would love now to hear your challenges. What are the challenges you see in your businesses out there? So I would love you to go back to Mentimeter and vote on what are your top 3 challenges in the business. The ones that are really facing your partnership business as a whole, because then we can target a little bit what we're saying in the remainder of this webinar. I can see some people have already been voting. I see some people talking about attracting talent, of course, key point. Managing expectations with customers, the second one, and the customer's process maturity. This, in the conversations I've had, this has been the surprising insight that I got, that so much out there, so many implementations fail because in the end, the customer doesn't really know how they're operating, and therefore they can't communicate the real requirements to you, and then it becomes very difficult to meet those requirements, obviously. But that's very interesting. So some more people coming on the same things. I see we must be talking to a group of very skilled people out there, because they have no projects running over time and budget. That's great. It seems people know
that's because it's BC partners.
Exactly. That's and maintaining the customer relationships. Well, maybe we do have. We are speaking with a group of people here that are pretty good at delivering what they do. So then it falls back a little bit on the customer. But very useful. Are these? Do you remember, Peter? Are any of these conclusions different from what we saw in
honestly, I don't remember. I think the curve went a little bit like that. I think we had a couple of the 2 last categories also in the last one. Yeah, maybe. But in order to explain the value that we can provide, I know it's been a little bit abstract, the value propositions I've been explaining. I would love to share a couple of cases with you. So these were some of the cases that led us into this space in the first place. The first case is a Danish sports retailer. They have about 1,000 employees. And back in 2020, they were starting to upgrade from Now to Business Central. And then during this process, they really saw a need last year that they needed to do a better job with documenting their business processes. So this was actually a customer realizing that their own process maturity had to be raised. And they didn't want to end up in a situation where they would just be blaming their supplier for something that may be failing.
But I think one of the big decisions or drivers behind this decision was also the need that they understood that they're not just buying a one-off product that will be like this for 3 years or more. They're buying something that requires continuous adaptation, because when obviously I think 2024 Microsoft has already talked about 300 or 400 new features coming out, and of course they saw the need of really understanding if our processes are in Gluu, how are different updates impacting these actual business processes in our Gluu account. So they picked Gluu, and they picked Gluu because of the ability to involve employees and frontline staff. This is really where we are different from other BPM tools that you may know. And driven by Jens, this a very experienced ERP consultant, they were actually able to define more than 1,000 activities in 100 critical processes through their own employees. Our customer success team were also helping in that, because it was a very intensive effort, but it raised the process maturity quite a lot, so that they also were able to formulate user acceptance test cases that were then providing what their Dynamics 365 partner, Navi partner, what they needed. And now they are in a successful rollout. So this is something where we afterwards realized, or Navi partner realized, hey, we should be working together on every project, because if you can help us raise the process maturity of our customers, you are lowering our risk, and you're also allowing us to move a little bit up the value stream from customization, from code to more of a business process consultancy. Moving on to the next case, that's a bit of a larger company. It's a Danish energy and utility and telco company, and here they started off buying Gluu because they needed to have control over their business processes, because they needed a backbone for integrating new acquisitions. And at the time they were using a different tool, but they went through a long time of really raising their maturity through business process owners throughout the organizations. They have more than 100 of those, managing more than 700 processes. So down to the lowest level of the organization, they have streamlined how they work. And if they buy a new company, they are working in accordance with the same processes. And this line of thinking on the customer side enabled them to adopt F&O and really streamline the whole finance and operations part. So that has been a big enabler for this. Of course, in this case, it wasn't driven by the Microsoft Dynamics 365 partner, but they were just happy to work with a customer with a high level of process maturity. So what I'm saying here is that the customer does have to make the choice of increasing or raising their maturity. It is they are in the driver's seat, but if we together with you as Dynamics 360 partners can offer them an easier way of doing this, starting off with the business processes that are interfacing with for instance Business Central, then it can go much faster and more easy than if you just expect them to find out yourselves. I would love to show a little bit how we support the specific phases of the Success by Design framework. So let me jump to that a little bit. I can see this is an animation. I can see the first point already being initiation phase, that you can clearly assign process owners and clarify the governance. So this means who on the customer side should own which business process, and hereby be accepting the features of Business Central, the handover of Business Central. Having this clear from the start will minimize your risk later on. But also something like having a process catalog where you really have a way to show the client all the different processes that represent the standard of, for instance, Business Central. Makes it a lot easier to show them something that they understand in their own language, because the end customers out there, the businesses out there, they do understand a swim lane diagram, but they don't necessarily understand what a system does. But if they understand the swim lane diagram and have a clear idea of which specific activities that are supported, well, then it's a lot easier for them to decide what should be in scope or not. So this is why we also see it as an initial sales tool, where you basically are showing your own best practice to your customers as a little bit of a menu card, and then they will pick certain processes that they want supported by F&O, by CRM, or by Business Central. So that brings us a little bit to this point of saying that the processes can set the scope for your project if you do it well, and it can also provide the whole basis for the documentation behind the proposal. You can print out a PDF and you can put it as an appendix, so you know exactly what the scope is. Moving on to the next phase, this allows us to, here you can really be testing your processes. There is an opportunity for actually trialing certain processes. So rather than building it all into the system, if the customer is a little bit uncertain, they can, in parallel with other activities in the project, be trying out things using Gluu. So Gluu has an ability to run process flows, a little bit like the old consultant moving around the organization with a notepad and a stopwatch. It's a little bit that what we're mirroring. There's also the whole change control and communication part. So every time a process is updated because the customer realizes that he needs something slightly different, then you will be documenting what may be a scope change in your project and communicating it back to the right stakeholders. So this means the right process owner and his or her team, the right role owners, and they can early on speak up if they see something that's not right. All of this is very much about raising the customer's process maturity, but also aligning very accurately with scope on an ongoing basis. Of course, as you're building your own library of business processes, you can also show other add-ons you're using, integrations, whatever value add you're also adding as a partner on top of, for instance, Business Central. Moving further in the project, a process consists of activities, and each activity can have work instructions. And in the work instruction, this is where we can really share the detailed documentation of how you go into a certain Microsoft module and you use it in the right way. So it's also a way of disseminating standard information to end users. These things are creating user acceptance test basics, so that you know exactly what is the procedure that we'll be going through when I'm doing a stock control or inventory control. Exactly where does Business Central come in, and what do I expect from it when I'm going to, for instance, registering data in Business Central. Then there's a point of reporting and tracking incidents, managing test flows, creating online training courses, and then finally, I would say, which is really important, understanding the impact of Dynamics 365 releases on an ongoing basis. Because when the customer has their processes mapped out and you know the relationship with the system, then you also know, and we are providing that service, exactly which features are impacting which activities in the customer's processes. So this gives you the chance of really offering them an ability to adopt new features fast. There was a small thing here. I should just take a look at the last one here. It really is also about tracking amendments and the ability to adopt new releases. So let's move on a little bit to how this will help you differentiate yourself as a partner. Some of you may be thinking we already have tools for this, but here we have compared Gluu to typical options. Typically, we see customers out there using Visio, SharePoint, Confluence, Jira, Lucidchart, Trello, Miro, and Teams. These types of home-built tools, if you will, or not home-built, but tools that allow you to do a lot of manual work. And where Gluu is different is really that while these tools all provide the basics, you can do a work instruction, you can talk a little bit about communications in Confluence, you can map your process. Then Gluu adds so much more for you to really reuse your own best practices to manage your changes on an ongoing basis. So it's much more a question of taking the process from start to finish and seeing it as a collaboration space. So it's a very different mindset. And I know some people are thinking, we're already using HubSpot or we're using internal things. That's not what this does. It only helps you in the space of process collaboration. So providing what you did for one customer to another one and turning that into a collaboration space driven by the customer. So a very, very quick overview of the platform, what it does. Well, you can imagine you have your classic customer. It's a bit of a spaghetti, manual activities, systems, all in and out. What Gluu really does here is helps you and the customer together to streamline what is the end-to-end flow and where do systems fit in, and then really pointing to work instructions, to tasks, to systems, so that you know exactly what is done manually, what is done in a system. We can also, for instance, let the customer fill in forms that can send data to Business Central, and thereby giving the end users a better space and gateway to work. All of this is supported by a number of different integrations. We are in the Microsoft Cloud, so we are also connecting through Microsoft Graph, the API. So there's a lot of add-on work that you can sell as well. But imagine this as a bit of a gateway for the customer. They will be the one in the end owning the process. They will be. That's how it will work in practice. So a little bit of a summary of the problems we talked about and the solutions. The first one, which I remember was high on everybody's list, attracting talent. Well, here what we do is we allow you to retain and share the knowledge from your specialists through these best practice processes, the work instructions, and so on. So you are more configuring customer solutions rather than starting from scratch every time and understanding the customer's needs from scratch. So this allows you to bring in more junior consultants. The second part about managing expectations, well, clearly, if you can start off showing the same process and adjusting that while involving the right people from the customer side all through the project and controlling changes, then you exactly know when scope changes, regardless if there are people coming in and out of the project over time. Third point, the process maturity. This is very much about giving you a tool to involve their team on a much more granular level, on a lower level than what you normally would do. And then the last 2 points is really about giving the ability for you to sell value-added services of really putting Microsoft's all those nice new features into play all the time. That's key. Finally, well, you didn't have that problem, I remember, but some may have that. If you bring in more junior people, maybe you will end up with this problem. But if you want to avoid projects running over time and budget, well, then this ability to document what has happened throughout with each process will make it a lot easier. A year ago, the process owner on the customer side decided on this, and it's automatically documented here. That will help a little bit. By the way, I'm going to put in the results from your survey when I'm sharing this presentation later on.
Yeah, and so and also what you avoid these situations where the customer says, yeah, but I know we talked about this process, but I thought it was implicit that you should do this, that, and then because everybody knows that, but you as a partner probably isn't working in the customer industry, so you don't know that. So the customer expects that a process looks in a certain way, but they've never told you. That's something typically you as a partner would pay the bill for that, right?
Exactly.
And that's something that you can actually remedy by having these very detailed process mapping.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That is definitely key. I know this has been a bit of a high-level explanation of the value proposition. We haven't shown any detail. You may be sitting with a lot of questions, but if the ability to address some of these challenges sounds intriguing to you, then I would love to hear from you. Also, this is also input for us in our presentation. So if you could please go into Mentimeter again and reflect a little bit on, based on what you've heard and your situation, would you find it relevant to review how you work with clients and their business processes, or do you think it's all sort of perfect as it is? Well, at least one is sure. Maybe we have a lot of people that haven't found their way into Mentimeter. It's always a bit challenging bringing in these types of tools in such a setting here.
Especially if you're listening on a phone, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're walking the dog, looking at your LinkedIn app, that's going to be difficult with this. I'll give you guys a chance to vote afterwards, but let's move on to the final one of the final slides, because looking a little bit at our offer here at the end is that if you find this interesting, or if you're not sure, then we have this offer where we really would like you to book a free initial exploration meeting with us, an online meeting via Teams. And if you do this before April 14, we will make sure that you get a lot of more detailed inspiration for collaborating on business processes together with your clients. And together we will then assess with the tools you have, with your preferred implementation method. I know you already have a lot. Is there a natural room for our platform in that setup? And if there is, then we can offer you a free Gluu account so that you can use that internally, present to customers, and training of your consultants. And then as something very special, free. I'm just going to turn you off a little bit, Peter, because you're hiding the.
I'm covering.
Yeah. So. Oh, sorry, that was not the right one. There it was. And then we're going to offer free process advice from an experienced Gluu consultant throughout your first project. So we will basically help you to achieve what we are promising here today in your first project, and from then on you will know yourselves how to do that. So hopefully that will enable you to go from selling hours and customizations to moving up the value chain a little bit and selling services.
So, and what is the price model for Gluu for a Dynamics 365 partner?
Yeah, so the price for the partner is it's free. The only thing is, when you're working with a client and you are cloning processes from your own master account to the customer's account, then the customer may need to buy a handful of licenses. But that's in the range of 10 to 20 euros per user per month. So you can imagine it's something that won't show up that much in your budgets. And our upside, of course, is that usually the customers see the potential in all of this, in actually taking charge of their own processes and bringing in the business people in the IT project. and thereby find a natural need for more licenses. And this is where we have a little bit of an upside. So that's what we have seen so far. But good point, Peter. There is no cost to the partner.
And we've been talking about ERP products specific. This could also be used for all kinds of other kinds of products, right? For example,
yes, exactly.
CRM project or something like that.
Exactly. It could also be any type of large, complex IT project, and even that would be relevant. Where you really need to involve a lot of business stakeholders, and you need to make sure you're supporting business processes. This is where Gluu really can help. So yeah. So with that said, I hope people watching this webinar afterwards will be taking us up on the offer and booking a call, and then we will explore together if there is a basis for a win-win here, and that's really what we're achieving. So I just want to underline that this is not, of course, about selling another piece of software to the customer. It's also about enabling your delivery model, and I think this is where we are a bit different here.
Yeah, we hope you were inspired to think about, will this process approach, are you already doing it? Do you already have the tools that you need for do it, or would you like to be more effective in doing it? And that's where you could knock on your door, right, Søren, if you want to hear more about how you can actually do it.
Exactly, and thanks so much, Peter, for joining us here today. I think it has been a great conversation, and I look forward to engaging with a lot of Dynamics 360 partners out there. So, see you.
Yeah, see you. Thank you, everyone.